So this is something that I learned when I was a teacher, and it's just like one of those little tips that just makes the world go round in my homeschool. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy, the Handmade Homeschooler, and today I'm going to give you some really good tips on how to have a good homeschool day, or a good week even. And these things have been absolutely life-changing for me and our homeschool. So I know that some of these tips will probably help you too. If you're new to my channel, I want to tell you welcome, and make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. Also down below in the description box, we have links to our free Facebook group for Christian homeschooling parents, and we have a link to free curriculum too if you want to give that a try. All right, so let's get into the tips and exactly what I do to make my day much smoother. And usually when I am diligent about doing these things, it really pays off. Now, do I do this every single day? In a perfect world, yes. And most of the time, I'm pretty good about prepping the way that I should, but there are those times because I battle chronic illnesses that it just doesn't happen. But the days that I do, everything runs much, much smoother for me and my entire household. And honestly, I'm just one of those people that likes to be prepared. So one of the first things that I always do has to do with meal times, because I don't know what it is, but sometimes school can get away from us and then meal times get really messy. So I prep dinner. And sometimes that means prepping it the night before, like making sure that I take whatever meat we're going to be using out of the freezer, if it's in there, or just making sure that I have all of the ingredients, knowing what I'm going to be doing, and not doing that 4:30, oh no, what are we gonna have for dinner type of rush. Just having that out. So what I do is I go off of a meal plan that I use every single week, and I do this every single week to grocery shop, and then that meal plan turns into what we're going to have every day for dinner that whole week. And I do weekly shopping. I find that we have a lot less food waste with the weekly shopping. I don't know, that just works for us. That way the kids know what they have for snacks. They know pretty much what we're gonna be having for dinner, and all I have to do is just pick something from that list. And knowing what I'm going to be doing the night before for dinner the following day is a huge help for me mentally, time-wise, and just making sure that I get dinner on the table at a decent time, because sometimes school gets away from us and we'll be schooling really late, especially because I have a high schooler and things tend to get a little bit different in high school. I don't know if your high schoolers work kind of late some days, but mine does. And yeah, sometimes I lose track of time. So not having to scramble and then have like no plan for dinner is awful. So some of you saw this in my day in the life video, but I always clean my kitchen every single night. I don't know what it is about having that kitchen clean, but having the kitchen clean in the morning before we get into school and all of that is really good for my peace of mind. I don't know, my mental state is so much better when I walk into a clean, like ready kitchen for me, versus when the sink is full of dishes and there's a mess everywhere. My brain goes into like panic mode, and then I don't know, like my anxiety goes through the roof. I have to clean everything, and I absolutely hate that. So for me, it's always best if I clean right after dinner. So we eat dinner, and then as soon as everybody's done, I will clean the kitchen. Sometimes the kids help, depending on, homework and things like that. So here's a bonus tip for you. While I'm cleaning the kitchen, I always set the coffee maker. I don't know what it is about this, but this is just like one of those things that I love in the morning. I love waking up and just having to push the button on the coffee maker, and then the coffee's ready to go. So this is something that I learned when I was a teacher, and it's just like one of those little tips that just makes the world go round in my homeschool. But one of the things that I always do is I run off copies at the beginning of the week. Now that doesn't happen every single weekend, but it's so helpful. So there are books that I do this like pass down method in my homeschool. So consumable books. If I know that, and we do this a lot with Becca, if I know that I'm going to be passing down these books to my youngest, what I do is I use the workbooks and I just run a copy off of everything. And I have my oldest child use the runoff copies and I give the consumable to my youngest when it's his turn for the books. Saves so much money in my homeschool, and there's all kinds of like little tricks you can do for things like that just to save money. Now, make sure you're following the copyright laws on each book. I always follow the laws. One thing that I do is I always have those copies ready to go at the beginning of the week. So sometimes I have to run off copies of different things, or there's like a website that one of the kids needs, and if it's just easier for me to print out those things like from an encyclopedia online or something like that, I just go ahead and print it off on like Sunday afternoon or something, and I just like stick it in our little folder and it's ready to go, and I don't even have to worry about it. And then come Monday morning, everything is smooth sailing throughout the rest of the week. They don't have to worry about, is their test printed out? Do they have their resources? Do they have this? Do they have that? It's all done. Just take it from me. If you have to make copies of anything, do it at the beginning of the week. It'll make your life so much better. One thing I always suggest is a planner. I use the Mardell Simple Plan planner, and my day is already planned out. Every single week I do this. Usually on the weekend, usually on Saturdays, I will sit down with all of the books and I will plan out the entire week. And I just take these boxes, I split them in half, and I do one kid on the top, one kid on the bottom half, and their schedule is all done. And then over in the notes section, there's this really large column right here, and I use that for everything from what we're gonna plan out for dinner to things I need for science experiments, notes to myself like, hey, we're gonna be reading this book the following week, or hey, heads up, kid number 1 has a big test in 10 days. I write myself a little note there so I know that it's there. It's like scientifically proven that when you write things down, you remember them better. And I'm very forgetful at this particular time in my life. So having little notes to myself that I can remember those things when I'm writing them down really is helpful for me. You guys have seen me do this time and time again, but I have a whiteboard right here, and I write down their schedule on the whiteboard every week. Now, the way that I do this is I have all of the subjects in a column under their name, and whatever book they happen to be reading, it goes up there. And then every day what I'll do is I will write the individual assignments up there if they need it. Sometimes they don't need it, like with the generations stuff. I thought I had a generations book here, I guess I don't. But with generations, their assignment is at the beginning of their workbook, so they don't really need me to write down those pages. Now, of course, this is going to be different with each child. Sometimes your kids aren't at the level yet where they're reading, but if your kids are there, this cuts down a lot on, Mom, what do I do next? Because they just have to look, oh, I do this next. And everything is in a column. So once they finish the top assignment, then they go to the next one, and they go to the next one, and they go to the next one. And it really helped my kids learn that independence that I always talk about. That's one of my keys to that, is all of the things being on the board and me not having to, stand over them and say, okay, now you're done with your math, you need to move to history. And then they also had the page numbers or assignment written up there too. So that's very helpful for me, and it's very helpful for them. So having a whiteboard is great because I don't have to have paper all over the place. Before we had a whiteboard, I was doing this on a piece of paper. So if you don't have a whiteboard, use a piece of paper or something like that. Use a notebook, use something where you can keep you know, on your child's desk or something like that, and just have them do that. We were using a clipboard with paper before we had the whiteboard, and that worked out just fine. I wish I remembered to do this one all the time, but I don't. But when I do, it's so much better. Have out all the science experiment and art supplies the night before. Now, there is a reason why I use this planner, and I keep telling myself, you wrote it down, how did you forget? I'm telling you, ever since my rheumatoid arthritis flared up, I have been very forgetful. Like, it's like brain fog all the time, and it's just like, but one of the things I do is I look and see what days we have experiments, and I write down in my planner what days we have experiments. And you guys know that I use those lab kits, those science lab kits, and I have everything inside of there, and that makes my life so much easier. So I already have everything that I need pretty much, other than like, you know, normal things that you would have at the house, like water or a pot, you know, things like that. So what I do is the days that we have experiments is I get out everything and I lay it out. And that way the kids aren't looking all over the house for different things and different items. I already know what they're doing for the experiment. Knowing what they're doing is half the battle. So I already know what the experiment is. I know what the outcome is supposed to be because sometimes we're doing these experiments and we're not sure why. Like, is it supposed to look like this? I don't know. So you know, sometimes I have to look these things up, but you know. And the same thing for art. I go through all the art supplies. I get out everything that we need for the art project that we're doing, and then that way it's ready to go and I don't have to worry about where all the stuff is and they're not digging through everything, because I'm sorry, that can take like 20 minutes sometimes, and it just, some days it'll drive me bonkers just trying to find everything or having them trying to find everything, and then there's a mess everywhere. It's not fun. So highly suggest just getting everything out the day before and making sure that it's out ready to go. Sometimes what I've done too is like I've had like a designated art basket, and I would do that on the weekends, and I would fill up this little basket with art supplies for the oldest and the youngest, and it was all in there, and they just had to grab the art basket. So that's an idea that you can use. That might work for you, I don't know. But it worked for us, and it really helped my day go a lot smoother because I wasn't scrambling around looking for everything. So just some basic teacher tips that I have taken from the classroom to the homeschool room that have seemed to really, really help everything go a lot smoother during my week and during my day. So use that. I hope that that helps you guys out. Hope you guys were able to glean something from there and have a little bit easier of a week coming up. So if you guys have any tips, leave them down below too. What do you do for a smooth homeschool day other than coffee and chocolate? Because I think we all have our emergency stashes somewhere. I love my coffee. I am trying to be better about it though. Like, I've cut down from 2 cups a day to 1 cup a day, and I'm doing okay with that. But what are your tips for having a good homeschool day? Let me know down below in the comments. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.